I think at this point I definitely set laws of attraction in motion, and the people I tended to attract for relationships weren't particularly good for me. I had ended up in a relationship that was quite violent, but that didn't start off violent. I don't particularly think I could have seen the events coming, but unfortunately I think I had attracted that kind of person. I suppose really I was lucky to even get to university. I'd gone through a period of time where I had some very dubious friends. Now, despite the fact that they would have done anything for me, I really could have ended up in a lot of trouble. I had at one point a friend confide that they were envious that I had the brains to get out of this situation that I was in. Sounds a little bit like Good Will Hunting, really, but yeah, they told me that they wished that they could get out, and unfortunately 2 weeks after the conversation, he did die in a car accident that was as a result of him being chased by police, because he'd done something obviously that he shouldn't have done. So yeah, that was one trigger that pushed me to leave the area. I think had I not have had that, I think I might have stayed and had quite a different life, I suppose. University was a saviour from that point of view. It changed the course of my life. But it changed more than just the direction. It changed my attitudes and how I looked at different situations. It was an eye-opener in more than one respect. Fortunately, while I was at university, I threw myself into my work because I didn't have many friends and I didn't particularly want to associate with the people that were there. They weren't my kind of people. They were quite cruel, despite the age that we'd reached by that point. Most of the people on the course were mature, but still treated people very badly. So I was an isolated entity. In some ways I quite liked that, but it did mean that I didn't have any kind of support if I needed it. And unfortunately, as a northerner in the south, I gravitated towards somebody that I met that was a northerner, and I felt that we had something in common. Unfortunately, that was probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life. But obviously at that point in time I didn't realise that. While I was in the relationship with this person, in 2000 I had an extremely serious car accident. I was hit by a lorry, and unfortunately I had to be cut out of the vehicle. While I was sat waiting for the fire crew to extract me from the vehicle, I realised that I couldn't feel anything below my waist. They presumed that it was something to do with stress or some kind of trauma that I was experiencing. But by this point I was in my last year of my course, and as a degree in medicine student would tell you, you kind of know the difference between a stress trauma and something that's quite physical. Fortunately, I did have some knowledge, so I was able to ensure they took me out on my chair rather than taking me out of the vehicle, which could have damaged my spine even further. When I went to hospital, they weren't sure how much of the damage was permanent or how much was as an inflammatory response. Being in a relationship with somebody who's a pathological sociopathic liar while you're paralysed is not easy. There is no support whatsoever, and they tend to feed from the fact that you are completely dependent. It means that they get an awful lot more attention, and that's basically what their drive is at that point. It was a very difficult period of time. I didn't know whether I would walk again. They couldn't tell me whether I'd walk again. I had no feeling below my waist. Fortunately, my bowel and bladder weren't affected, so that was at least a little bit of dignity that was maintained. So I had 3 months of trying to learn how to walk. Once I got some sensation, I guess I was in the right place in the course that I was on, because at least my peers understood what was happening to me, and when they were visiting they could at least talk to me from a technical point of view, but also from an empathic point of view, because they understood what it was like for me to be in there. They had no personal experience, but knowing me for the 5 years I think really did help. So I had a couple of people that visited me a lot. One of them is such a good friend that I know that I could ring him now, and if I needed anything then he'd just drop everything and he'd be there. But that's the kind of person that he is. So I was lucky. But at the same time I was a long way away from my parents, a long way away from my family, and even more isolated. The pain was horrendous, mentally, physically. I can't begin to describe how you battle through even simple tasks like trying to go to the toilet or trying to put your own socks and shoes on. Pain management was just so difficult. There was nothing that anybody could give me that would control the pain. And when I have patients now myself coming in with nerve problems, I know that there is nothing that they can take that's going to help. Pain from a nerve is uncontrollable. Gabapentin, something that they tried with me, is actually for epilepsy, and it changes how your brain attaches to a nerve instruction. That's not how I wanted to live my life, but at the same time you have to be in a pain-free situation, at least so that you can manage daily activities. So I think this was probably the second point in my life where I had really hit rock bottom. And if I thought that my teenage years were dark, this was just something else. I didn't know if I was going to walk. The fact that they couldn't tell me was even worse. I would have preferred, I think, for someone to say, you're never going to walk again, and at least I could have dealt with that. There was nothing that anybody could tell me, and I found that particularly difficult to deal with. I hit a level of depression that again made me so low that I think suicide was something very real. I couldn't believe that was going to be how I was going to have to spend the rest of my life.